Okay, I'm home from my Snowies Alpine Walk circuit that I did. There's a few issues with this walk. There's been a bit of interest from people online asking about camping and things like that. So I'm going to do a dirt video on it with a few of the logistical issues. So the walk as I did it was about 84 Ks and climbed 2,740 metres. Now, as I mentioned, I made it into a circuit. So basically day one, I followed the official Snowies Alpine Walk up to below Charlotte's Pass, where it crosses the Snowy there at Foreman's Flat, or Foreman's Crossing, I think it is. And then I climbed up the main range track, which is part of the Snowies Alpine Circuit, Alpine Walk, and just camped. I dropped off the track towards Club Lake Creek, camped up in the high country on the main range. Day two, I continued on the Snowies Alpine Walk around the main range, but I left it at Rawson's Pass, and climbed from Rawson's Pass. I dropped down the Threadbow boardwalk up to Kosciuszko, and this is how I made it into a loop. So I dropped down to Threadbow for the night from Kosciuszko, and then stayed at the YHA that night in Threadbow. Now Threadbow was some accommodation open, but it was very expensive and very tight because there was a big mountain bike school kids mountain bike tournament on. From Threadbow on day three, I dropped down the Threadbow River along the Threadbow Valley track. That's a shared use with mountain bikes. That said, the mountain bike guys and girls were fine. They were taking their time. They weren't dive bombing down behind me, and they were all polite. They all stopped for a chat. Camped down near Bullock's Flat beside the river. Not at Bullock's Flat because you can't camp there, but just before it. And then on day four, I once again picked up the official Snowies Alpine route and walked the track basically backwards. So I started from Bullock's Flat, climbed up past Perisher, up to about halfway between Perisher and Charlotte Pass, camped up there, and then on the last day I walked from that camp through Charlotte Pass back down to Guthrie in my ute. So the last 8 or 9 Ks was a retrace. The rest of it was circuit walking. I walked on my little circuit walk. I walked 84 Ks and climbed 2,740 metres. And this isn't a formal walk. You can make it. You can do what you want with this. The trail's designed as I think Parks New South Wales have designed it as a one-way in-to-in type walk where you stay in the ski resorts. The problem with that is the Parks Victoria built this wonderful track and the facilities are amazing, but the ski resorts, the private sector doesn't seem to have come to the party opening any accommodation. So there was nothing open at all in Guthiga. I couldn't find anything on Perisher open at all online. I think the Kosciuszko Hotel at Charlotte Pass might have been open. The places I did find open were actually on my variant, which were down at Threadbow. Obviously, Threadbow thrives in summer with the mountain biking. And Lake Crackenback is also open, the Lake Crackenback Resort down near Bullock's Flat. So, ironically enough, the variant part of the walk is there's accommodation if you wanted to stay in some flash accommodation. But the actual official walk it's very hard to find accommodation. So more or less, unless you know someone has a lodge, or maybe if you get hold to them early enough, you send an email like 2 months in advance to a lodge, they may open up if you're going to stay there for a few days, they may open up. I can't see many of these opening up, especially for one night though. So ironically enough, the official walk, which was designed, I think, as an in-to-in section type walk, now is either a camping walk or a drive-in, drive-out, like car shuttle type walk. There are shuttles that do it. They're expensive and they're fairly long, a lot of the shuttles. I'd imagine most of the shuttle drivers and companies would be down in Jindabyne, so they've got to get up into the mountains to pick you up and then drive you around to another valley to drop you off, and then they have to get home and they've got to cover that cost. So they're not cheap options, but there are options to do that. the positive side, the accommodation in Jindi's a little bit cheaper than on the mountains. So it might work out. If you're not worried about time, the accommodation might work out. The camping side of it, which is what I did mostly, has a few issues. There's no formal, because they didn't design it with camping in mind, I don't think, Parks New South Wales, there's no formal campsites up on the range. Ironically enough, on the variation that I did along the Thredbo River, there are a couple of formal campsites with toilets and tables and facilities. But on the official walk, there's no formal campsites. Now, there's campsites people have been using for years up on the main range, and as far as I know, they're still legal. Where you can't camp on the main range is in the catchments of the Alpine Lakes. There's a slide going around that I'll stick up. There's a slide that I can stick up showing you the sign which marks the catchments out. There's still plenty of, contrary to popular kind of opinion online, there's plenty of camping up there, but the camping is very exposed, and it's also fragile kind of country. So if there's a lot of people camping up there, they're going to have to think about, parks are going to have to think about like the toilet system and things like that, because there's obviously no formal campsites, there's no toilets up there. It's going to be a problem. I might get back onto that towards the end of this little ramble that I'm on about. As far as if you are camping up there, there's quite a bit of water around. Even at the early autumn, back end of summer, there was water flowing across the track, even right up on the main range. So water's generally not a problem. Maps, as far as maps and navigation go for this walk, the walk's so new that I don't think, apart from the little kind of printout that Parks New South Wales give you, I'm not sure of the official name of Parks New South Wales, anyway, someone can put that in the comments. But there's no good topographical maps that have the Snowies Alpine track marked on it. Hard copies. There's some digital stuff. I know all trails have got most of the track, if not all the track marked and ready to download. And I'm guessing Trail Hiking Australia and a few others would have the same kind of downloadable maps. But hard copies, very hard. The map I used didn't even have the topo map that I used. The hard copy didn't even have the Thredbo Valley track down the Thredbo River on it. I knew it was there because I'd walked it, had sections of it over the years, but yeah. So navigation, but having said that, navigation on even on my alternate, on my circuit alternate, navigation is very, very easy. But you still need some form of navigation, even on a very well constructed and signposted and marked track. So keep that in mind. And the other thing, camping, if you do try and camp it, you do want to camp it, you need some experience. Even though it's a really easy walk and really well constructed, camping way, way above the tree line, you need a little bit of experience and gear for camping up above the tree line. So you need to be able to select the right campsite, you need shelter, you need a tent that can withstand bad weather and high winds. It's not a place to be if the weather turns bad. Now my videos, I didn't get bad weather, so it doesn't show you what it's like in bad weather, but it's nasty in bad weather. It's life-threatening. People die up there, so be careful. All right. So look, I hope that kind of explains how I did the walk and why I did a circuit. I did the circuit because I only had one car coming from Victoria, and it was just, I have time, so I just said, well, I don't want to pay for shuttles every day and stay in Jindabyne, so I'll create a circuit. Now, it might help some other people with one vehicle. I suspect that there's two things that could happen with this track. It's an amazing track. First, let me say, I was thinking as I was walking along between Perisher and Charlotte Pass the other day, it's like almost a Tasmanian or New Zealand style track where, sweeping views down over 1,000 metre valleys below you. absolutely stunning. I suspect what's going to happen is if the private sector and the ski resorts don't come to the party and open up some accommodation, the track's going to be that popular and people are going to be wanting to camp. Parks New South Wales, or whoever the entity is going to have to formalise a couple of campsites and maybe put in a couple of long drops, a couple of Sputniks or something that can fly in and fly out. Because the environmental, I mean, there's two issues. The environmental side of it is going to get untenable. I think if everyone is forced to camp, or most people are forced to camp, and also I think the safety of the walkers themselves. The track's designed for like new walkers or maybe less experienced walkers, and I kept my loop to that in that kind of genre. You know, like my loop is a similar standard track to the Snowies Alpine Walk. So the whole those 5 days is fairly easy walking on very good tracks that are well signposted. But the country you're camping in is really country that can turn very nasty very quick, and it's more suited to the camping side of it's more suited to fairly experienced walkers that are used to camping in hostile environments. So I think parks may have to formalise a couple of campsites. If the private sector don't play ball and open up accommodation and people are just forced to camp, because I can see eventually there's going to be environmental impacts, and there's also going to be the potential for people to get into trouble, camping high and not having the skills to kind of handle the weather. So we'll see how that goes. That's just my thoughts. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this walk looks in 5 years' time, I reckon. All right. But yeah, like I said, this is a stunning walk. If you've walked in New Zealand or Tassie, you've done the overland, or the Routeburn or Kepler in New Zealand, it's a similar, it's hard to compare scenery and that, but it's a similar standard of track to those kind of walks. Definitely, we are lucky to have this, on the east coast of Australia. All right, I'll stop waffling on, and I'll catch you on the next walk. Take it easy.